Alrighty, welcome everyone. It has just gone 4 p.m. here in the UK. We've got a few people still coming in. I want to say welcome and thank you for everyone that has joined us. I think there might be, there was one raised hand, but we're good now. So thank you so much. So today we're going to be talking about what's new in Totara 14. It will be very much an overview session today, talking about what's going to be included in the update of the Totara Talent Experience platform. My name is Meredith Henson. I'm the Senior Partner Success Manager here at Totara Learning, and I am joined by the infamous Mr. Matt Lineker. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Meredith, and hello to everyone who's just joined today.
Yes, hey everyone. We've still got some people creeping up, so I'm going to try and stretch out the introductions a little bit. So this is, there we go, let's get the first slide up. So just a little bit of information about today's session. A reminder that today is a partner exclusive event. So we've just got partners. We've got quite a few people here. Thank you so much for joining. We've just got partners here today, hopefully. And this is so Totara can offer you an advanced look at what's coming across the next release. And so you can be prepared to have a conversation with your customers. Now, I appreciate some of the information that we'll be sharing today. You might want to pass on to your customers. We would ask, rather than sending any sort of type of recording or screenshots or a link to the recording, for example, we might provide some assets, some screenshots, once we've completed all the webinars for you to share in the event that you wish to. So this is just really for your information only. The session is being recorded and we will make it available to partners only through the Totara community in the next couple of days. Today's session is going to be slide and screenshot based. We won't be doing a live demo. And the reason for that is that we're still in QA, which means we're testing. The site is unstable. It's not a great environment for me to provide you a demo on. And also, so things could be change and be updated. And so this way we can guarantee what I'm showing you is what's going to be in the release. And it also means that the subsequent sessions that we're running, so running another session on Thursday, Dasha, the product manager for the centralized notifications project, will be running a dedicated session on that functionality. And the following week, Tuesday or Wednesday the following week, depending on your time zone, there will be a dedicated session from Phil, who was the product manager across Totara Perform, and the updates that we see across the competencies work and the performance activities across Perform in 14. So for that reason, because there are dedicated sessions on those two pieces of functionality, I'm going to skip through that functionality fairly quickly. I'll give you bullet points and an overview of what that functionality is so you can be tempted, but very much no spoilers for Dasha and Phil's session. And in addition, please do post any questions you might have around the centralized notification system and the Perform updates in the Q&A. And very good chance that I wouldn't be the best person to answer that. So what we'll do is we'll collate all of those up and I'll send them to Dasha and Phil in advance so they can ensure that they address that question in their dedicated session, as they are very much the experts on that area. But please don't be shy in posting your questions. I will attempt to answer those that I can, those that I can't, either to Phil and Dasha or to follow up in the community. So I've asked you to use the Q&A area. There's also the chat area where Matt will be keeping an eye on that as well. And if you've got any links you want to share on information or chat in the chat, and likewise, Matt will post the occasional link that I'll throw at him randomly in an excitable way into the chat. So keep an eye on both the Q&A and the chat. So welcome everyone. We have a beautiful round 100 attendees today. So thank you so much for joining. Let us make a start. Before I go to the next slide, well, I've got a pretty holder slide here, Matt. Is there anything that I need to know?
No, just to say, yeah, we are recording the session. So if you've come in a little bit late, just to let you be aware of that. And we will post that in the community in the webinars on demand section. There's a partner area space for that. We'll put a link to that after this session as well.
Excellent, thank you very much. There we go. So just a few numbers to start with. In fact, I can reduce, there we go. So these are very much approximate numbers at this stage because, as I say, we're still in QA, which means those ticket numbers can change. We might identify things to fix or things to change, which will create new tickets. But as of this afternoon, across Totara 14 exclusively, we have processed 1,016 tickets through our tracker system on Jira. Now, these are tickets that will include ideas, features, improvements, bugs, epics. So there's a lot of different types of tickets that we use, but specifically across 14, we have recorded 232 new features and improvements across 14. Now, obviously, those aren't all big things. Some of them are minor updates here and there, but it gives you an idea of the scale of the work that we've progressed, even though we only released 5-6 months ago the Totara 13 release. Now, additionally, and unusually for a point release across 13, so for 13.1 through to 13.6 and eventually 7, we actually introduced a number of new features as well as improvements across those point releases. That's not typical. Normally, we'd only really do sort of minor enhancements and bug fixes across point release, but because 13 was special and because there was plenty more that we wanted to get into it, but we needed to release it, we did push a few more updates. And so I've recorded another 22 new features and improvements across 13.1 through to 13.6. And some of the features that I'll be talking about today were included in those 13 point releases. I've decided to include those because they are important, but also not everyone is on 13 yet, unfortunately, and not everyone has been applying the point releases. So I thought it would be worth everyone catching up on that. Now, additionally, and I should warn you guys in advance, sorry about that, I am sporting a slight cough today. It's nothing to worry about. It does mean that routinely I'm just going to have to mute and have a bit of a ahem. So if you see me jumping around, frantically looking for the mute button like now, that's why. There's nothing wrong with your audio, it's just me. Okay, so in addition, we've had 16 performance tickets. It's performance is an ongoing focus for us, but with an impressive 64 accessibility tickets. This very much reflects the work and the staff now involved across design and UX, primarily based in the Wellington team, that there is very much a focus on improving not only the user experience, but the accessibility of our products. Okay, so let's skip. So I'm going to talk about Totara Learn updates, Totara Engage, Totara Perform updates. And this is just a splash page of some pretty screenshots of what's included. I may jump back to the slide if I want to point at anything in particular. And remember, this session is being recorded, so you can go back through and look at these screenshots in more detail if you need. So across, across Learn 14, a big change across those 13-point release was the integration of Zoom and Microsoft Teams with the seminar tool. And what that allows us to do is connect your Totara site with your MS Teams and or your Zoom installation. And when you create a session or an event in a session within your Totara site and choose this Zoom or MS Teams room, it will create a corresponding event or multiple events across your web conferencing tool. So it very much streamlines that process. If you're not using Zoom or MS Teams, we do have some others that we're looking at integrating in the future, but there is also the custom link where you can just simply post a equivalent URL, but this just takes the word out of it for Zoom and Teams. We have also introduced or have made the declare interest option available for the seminar direct enrollment method. So just to explain that a little bit, previously the seminar direct enrollment plugin allowed users to browse the dates that are available for a seminar event before being enrolled in the course. But if there weren't any dates, so an organization was just trying to get a feel for interest, the user couldn't interact with the course without enrolling. This update allows learners to declare interest in a seminar before they've enrolled in the course, so they can be notified if a new date or when a new date has been set based on there being enough interest from learners from the organization. which I think is a really nice addition. It means that an organization can make that judgment for themselves when there's enough users interested, hopefully making it easy for presenters as well as reducing costs. We've also introduced, this is a technical development, and for those that are interested in reading a little bit more about it, you can have now tenant-specific settings in custom themes. Now, this is just a hook. This is TL29611, if you want to go into the issue track and read a little bit more about it. It is technical in nature, so not my area of expertise. However, what it means is if you are creating a custom theme, then you can have tenant-specific settings within that custom theme. It's just a new hook that allows you to do that. We have also implemented some updates to the default branding. Now, this is one of the screenshots I had before. So with the resources and workspaces, courses, programs, and certifications, there is a default icon if you don't have your own image. In the past, in 13, those were at the Totara green. And we've changed that now to a grayscale so that if you don't have the time or inclination to make those changes, it's not such an obvious brand when you do create your own custom theme. So it's a nice interim color. Along those same lines, we have updated the logo. So it's now the triple color logo across the default theme within Ventura. We also have allowed default image settings per tenant. And this is a really exciting one. So this has just been, this is one of the last things to be pushed before we went into QA. And what this allows you to do is, again, along the same lines as having those courses, programs, certifications, resources, and workspace images. You can have those at the system level, but you can also have default images at the tenant level. So if you're using multi-tenancy and you're using different site or tenant brands or tenant themes, then you can set different default images. And that applies, I believe, across Engage and Learn. Another update, this was again a point released across 13, was that tenant admins can now create audiences. So if you are a user admin associated with a particular tenant, you can now create audiences. You can create both set and dynamic audiences, which means you can do things like what you would normally do with audiences. And all of the rules, even if you're using a dynamic audience, will only apply within the context of that tenant. So it's not going to grab users from a different tenant or a non-tenant. It will only apply those to people within that same tenant. And set and dynamic audiences, and also allow admins to set visible learning for those tenant members or those tenant audience members. A note that I will stop for questions in just a moment. I'm just kind of get to a nice break point, so do pop them in the QA and Matt will feed them to me in a moment. So this screenshot here shows that declare interest option. So if a user is browsing for a particular course with a seminar event, they can enroll, or they can simply declare interest in one of or many of the seminars that sit within that course. Alternatively, if they can get into that course, they could be guest access, they could look at the particular event that's upcoming, and they can declare interest as well if there's no date or booked. Okay, any questions? I'll go back to this. Any questions on the items that we see on screen right now, Matt?
No questions coming up so far, Meredith, but if anyone does have any, please feel free to post them now.
Okay, I feel like this is good news. Okay, page 2 of the Learn 14 new features. So some of these are a little smaller, but for as I was talking to the marketing team yesterday, for some people this is going to be an exciting development. So in the SCORM activity, there are new attempt options. So previously it was a yes/no option, whether a user was had to have a forced new attempt, yes or no. when they exited and re-entered that SCORM activity. And now there are options of no, when completed, passed or failed, and always. So it can be yes, so be always, no, or conditional on their previous status of being completed, passed, and or not and or failed. So that adds some new opportunities for how people interact with SCORM activities. And we've also done some updates across the report builder. We have added some smarts to the schedule reporting tool. So if you have a scheduled report with an attachment and there's no data or information in that particular attachment, then it won't send a blank attachment. So currently, let's say it was the inappropriate material report from Engage. There have been no reports of it. You wouldn't have to open an empty Excel spreadsheet to find that out. It simply wouldn't send you a blank report. This next one's really nice. In the assignment report source, there's a new column which will provide you a direct link to the corresponding assignment submission. So that means you can have a streamlined submission review and even marking process using that report. Another nice one across the reports is in the course membership report source. There's now a current enrollment status and filter. So you can view both current and previously enrolled users without having to rely on course completion records. And of course, the big showcase feature across Totara 14 is the centralized notification system. So before I jump into that, just a reminder that there is a dedicated session on the centralized notification system. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to sign up to that. Joshua has been working with that project and knows it inside and out and will be able to answer all your questions. What I'm going to talk about today is very much surface. You'll be able to get into the detail. And there are a few, again, I didn't want to do any spoilers for Dasha. So there's a couple of bits and pieces that are kind of smaller pieces of functionality that she'll also cover, but I say smaller, they're still of course very important. So I'm not covering everything. The second thing is, are there any questions on anything I need to address them at?
Just a couple of questions coming in now. For the default branding images, will anything change on the default Totara branded login image?
Oh yes, that default image is there's a small change to it. Yeah, it's a minor change in just terms of alignment to our branding, but it doesn't change from I forget her role, but the woman from EULA. It's the same image, but just slightly tweaked.
Genevieve.
Oh, Genevieve. Hope you're not on the call, Genevieve. If you are, I apologize.
Next one, is it just declaring interest or also enrolling to the seminar and courses as can be done via plugin now?
It's an extension to that existing plugin. So the seminar direct enrollment plugin exists. That's if people can browse and sign up, then they'll be automatically enrolled in the course. This extends that functionality so that they can interact with that course without enrolling, still receive an update when there is a set date, and then subsequently enroll so that they can book on a session.
Okay, thanks, Meredith.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so centralized notification system. So this is a big update across 14 and will extend across to version 15. This is very much the first phase of this work. And what this means is that we'll have a new framework for the creation and editing and customization of all system notifications across the Totara Talent Experience platform. So currently you might have program and certification notifications that you edit in one area, badge notifications that you edit in another, seminar that you edit in a third, and there's probably plenty more examples. So we've pulled it into one centralized administration area so that it's very much a one-stop shop for administrators to manage these notifications. Across 14, we have implemented this across the programs and certifications functionality. across version 15, it will be implemented across the other notifications. So this is very much the first phase of this work. But this programs and certifications is a great first start. Not only will it give you time to become familiar with how the functionality works, but programs and certifications are one of those key areas that required some updates in terms of messaging and that interface, and is a widely used pieces of functionality. So notifications are now grouped by what's called a notifiable event, which is essentially a trigger. So that might be program assignment or program completion as an example of a notifiable event. And they're not only just grouped by notifiable event, they can be customized and new notifications created per that notifiable event. And you'll see from the screenshots in the next slide that you can, when you create a notification, you can set the recipients, the schedule, delivery methods, and content for each of these notifications by these notifiable events. So here we have the centralized notification system here. You can see that sits under the site administration area. And at this stage, we just see a section on programs and certifications, but we'll be expanding that out across 15 in October, where users can create new notifications and edit existing notifications. The second screenshot here shows you the create notification functionality. And I should say these are actual screenshots. These aren't mock-ups. This is what it looks like. So you can create new notifications, select the recipient, and you notice here that there are some nice schedule options. And what this will mean is that you can create engagement and reminder workflows across all of these notifications. So it could be that you set when someone's assigned a program, they receive a certain notification, and then maybe a week later they're sent a, hey, don't forget you've got your program, you should be, at this stage, keep up the great work, etc., etc., etc. And of course, on program completion, they can receive, a congratulations to you email and reminders, maybe what the next step would be. So you've got workflows around engagement, completion, and next steps built into the centralized notification system. Now, when you create a notification, you can choose how it's going to be sent. So the delivery channel here, and set the subject and the body of the message. Now, this next slide, I've got some screenshots in the following slides to explain what I mean. Now, all of these notifications have cascading contexts, which sounds a little bit like a Dr. Seuss book, but what that means is that you'll have your system level defaults, or your system level notifications, that you'll be able to edit and customize those notifications at the relevant lower contexts. And again, what that means is you could have a system default for all of your programs and certifications, and then for a particular program, edit those notifications, edit the context into the content, as well as even the schedule. For another program, you can have an entirely different set of notifications. Across 15, once we expand centralized notifications across the remainder of the functionality, it will allow us to do really neat things like have different welcome messages for different courses, for example, different content for different training events. Now, there's also some improvements to how you would add placeholders or variables within those messages. A reminder that currently you need to click on the contextual help and look through all of the available variables. You'll see in a minute that now you can start typing and there'll be a suggestion for the relevant placeholder so that you can customize and personalize those notifications very easily. There is a new multi-lang input box. Now this is something of not a temporary solution, but it's a short-term solution to the multiple language issue. Currently, if you want to have notifications in multiple languages, you have to deal with a fairly complicated and visually unpleasant HTML filter. This breaks that down a little bit, and you'll see again in a moment in these slides. But we are working on a more robust, longer-term, extensible solution for managing multiple languages and translations within these notifications. But this is a big step forward Particularly our European partners will be hopefully breathing a sigh of relief when they see these screenshots. Another thing that we've been asked for many, many years is email branding for these messages. So you can put in an HTML header and footer across all of the notifications, and this can be applicable or set at both the system level and the tenant level. So you can have tenant level, excuse me, tenant level or tenant specific branding across emails that you send out through the notification system. And there is a vastly improved user interface for users who want to set their notification preferences. Gone is that quite difficult matrix with all the different colors. When you go into your user profile, into your notifications preference, you'll see in a moment that it looks more like the administration area in terms of it being broken down by section and being switched on and off. I'm aware that there's lots of questions pinging up. So let's have a look through these screenshots. So this is here an example of the multiple language filter in actionable box. So you can insert using the little globe icon within the editor a new language. You select the language by entering in the ISO code, so DE, FREN, etc. And then you can enter in the translation. You can edit it, and you'll go to this dedicated box where you can edit it and again use those placeholders. So again, not an absolutely perfect solution, but a really big step forward to what people have to use now. So hopefully you'll be as excited about that as I am, as the language nerd. And when you're creating a notification, this is the placeholder kind of autocorrect, if you will, functionality. So you can see here, you can start to write this within a square bracket and it will give you a couple of suggestions and you can select on that suggestion. This screenshot here is of the new user interface for notifications preference. As I said, the interfaces, it looks actually quite a lot like the perform interface, and again, the notifications interface for administrators. So gone is the matrix and the bright colors. You can turn things on and off unless it's a forced delivery. Clicking on the extra option allows you to check out the delivery channels that are the options. If you override it, then you can edit that to your particular requirements. And this is per user. Last screenshot before I move on, see if I can answer any of the questions. This is the email branding. So this is a single page that I've just split in two. You can see that the dark end is the corner just because I couldn't fit it on the screen. So this is in the Ventura theme area. And you can see that there's a new section here for email notifications where you can add in the HTML footer and header, and you can even have a plain text footer as well. And this is at the system level, but of course you can do this at the tenant level as well. Okay, Matt, we did talk about how I wouldn't probably be able to answer any of the questions around the centralized notification system and I'd defer to Dasha, but are you seeing anything that is a likely suspect there for me?
Well, a lot of people are interested, obviously, in languages, as you've been showing there. I think that's something that Dasha can go into more detail on as well. But also, the question here, for example, just a simple one. Yeah, can you adjust the way the emails look in 14? So here, as you're showing it.
Oh yes. So here you can adjust how they look. Yeah, in the Ventura functionality. Yeah.
And can the email sender within Totara also differ between tenants?
Oh, so like the no reply address. So that's interesting. I don't know that answer to that. I'll add that to the list for Dasha to address. It's a good question. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll collect all of these ones for notifications. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for everyone who's posted questions. Apologies, I can't with confidence answer, or not necessarily answer them now. Dasha is very much the person to speak to, and I encourage you to sign up for her session. As I say, we'll filter all of the, we'll collect all these questions out and send them over to her so that you'll get those responses. Okay, next. after a quick cough. There we go. So another thing that we have done, sorry for the flashing images. Come on, there we go. Well, another thing we have done is that we have released a new flavor of Totara. So just like perform, engage, learn flavors, we now have Learn Professional. So Learn Professional is a stripped back version of Totara Learn. There's a comparison chart here. This is a screenshot of a couple of examples, but it is available through the box link for the marketing team, the marketing box link for you to review the full document. Now, Totara Professional is designed for a couple of reasons, put together based on demand, but also it's for those organizations maybe just starting out with a learning management system, maybe have been operating on Excel and PowerPoint, and want to just dip a toe into the LMS world. So they don't have any big sophisticated requirements, although you can see plenty of blue ticks. There's lots of functionality across, black ticks across professional that are available across the full feature, but not everything. So it's sort of simplifying that experience for people that are new to the learning management system. Or maybe they simply have a very simple requirement from a learning management system. They've got a couple of SCORM and they just want to deliver those. The other thing is that this can be a nice stepping stone from another learning management system. So maybe that one isn't enterprise focused, for example, Moodle, and they might have this as a stepping stone from Moodle to Learn Professional before they realize that the value of some of the other functionality as well as the full talent experience platform. So it's a gateway learning management system, and it's available now. Okay, moving on to Totara Engage. Now, Totara Engage hasn't seen a huge number of updates across 14. Our focus has been very much on the two big projects across Core, which is the centralized notification system, and across Totara Perform, which we'll see in a moment. Having said that, a few nice bits and pieces. So across Totara Engage, we've been working on improvements to the recommendations engine. So we've got some improvements to text processing, so the content within resources and workspaces and playlists, etc., and comments. And we're also now able to take and process user profile information, so country, preferred language, department, that type of thing, and process and add that to the recommendations. Across a 13-point release, again, we added through demand the ability to add audiences to workspaces. Now, this allows you to bulk add individuals to workspaces. Currently, the solution doesn't allow you to continue to synchronize those users. There are a lot of complications around, what happens when people leave. Do they get removed from the workspace? If their membership changes to the audience. So there's a bit more thinking on how we manage that. So this is a solution for now, where you can at least bulk add people to workspaces. And I should also say, before I spoiler alert, we are drinking our own champagne in terms of Totara Engage in the community. So we recently switched on Totara Engage across the community. If you haven't been there for a while, do check it out. We are using the system in the way that is one of the ways that it can be used, and it's a great test case for us, being actually implemented and seeing how we use it to deliver information to the Totara community. But on the flip side, it's if you haven't used Engage yet and you're not quite sure how you might position it with your customers, or even use it within your own organization, this is a great example of one way it can be used and implemented across an organization. And you're very welcome to use it to demo, for example, to prospective and existing customers how Engage can be implemented across a community platform. Any questions across those Engage items, Matt?
Actually, a good question that could be worth asking is, when is 14 due to be released?
Oh, that was going to be my last slide. Okay, so we don't have an exact date because we're still in QA, but we would expect it at the end of April. So like I say, we're still testing. Once we're starting to wind up that testing, we'll be able to provide a more specific date, but we'll say end of April for now.
Just on Engage, with the audience enrollment, is that still a one-off or does it sync?
So it's a one-off.
Thanks.
Alrighty, no problem, thank you. Okay, so let's look at total perform. So total perform, a lot of changes across total perform. This makes up half of my slides today, plenty of screenshots. Again, please do forward questions in the Q&A area. Phil will be giving a dedicated session across total perform, which I encourage you to sign up for, where he'll again be able to go into these in a bit more detail, and of course, talk about what's planned in the future across total perform. But these updates are exciting to me. There's replicated of some of the functionality that you knew and loved, and to 12 functionality, but adding extra to those. So very much building on the functionality that people are used to, and adding different sprinkles, rainbow sprinkles, I would even say, to a lot of the functionality that you've been using before. So this first screenshot is where when you create a competency, then there's this notification here which says this achievement paths need review. So if you create a competency with an achievement path, which you need to, and the achievement path isn't valid, so isn't complete, or maybe only has 2 stages of a 3-stage scale, you'll get an alert there as an administrator to make sure that it's something that someone can actually complete. Okay, so total perform 14 new features. So we've added a couple of report sources for the competencies functionality. The competencies export was available before, but we've now made it a little bit more human readable or human friendly, so that the export's a little easier to read and process, and even run further calculations or information on it. And a new report source across competency ratings. So you can do a report across all the ratings that people or a group of people have. There's the achievement path warning, which we saw on screen a moment ago. Again, it means that you can't create a competency without a valid achievement path or an achievable achievement path. This last item on bullet point on the screen is a particularly exciting one, I think. And this allows you to set the required proficiency level for a competency by job assignment. So what this means is for people with different job assignments, so maybe a senior director of HR needs a high level proficiency in the employment contract law, than maybe a HR assistant. So you can have different proficiency levels across a set scale by job assignment per competency. So this is what it looks like. So here we've got 2, and I was a bit squeezed for room, I apologize. Again, if Phil, we're doing a live demo, so you'll see everything in all its glory. So we've got the current assignment. This is a meter reader, and you can see that they've got a different competency level. And under here, you'll see that the CEO has a higher competency level. And again, there's a multiple step competency scale, and you can set it per job assignment. These are Phil screenshots. I think he might be trolling me to do with Tuesdays, given today's Tuesday, but hopefully he's been kinder than that. Now, some of the other pieces of functionality that has very much been anticipated by you guys is the partner network. So one of them, and this is where we've been working on kind of taking functionality that was in 12, that wasn't in Perform 13, and adding it and improving it. And one of those items is the question redisplay element or question type. And this allows you to redisplay questions and responses from the current or even another performance activity within a performance activity. There's now an aggregated response element or question type, and this allows you to have a range of different aggregations across both custom and numeric scales. And again, the next screenshot will show you the different aggregation options. And probably the most requested item is the content review element. And that will be extended across 15 and ongoing, but for now, it will allow you to display, comment on, and rate competencies within a performance activity. And will optionally allow you to submit a rating to a user's competency profile. Now, any rating that you provide within a performance activity gets recorded as a snapshot. So if you go back and review that performance activity from last year, you'll see the scale that you had, the scale rating that you had last year. And for the following year, it can be changed again and so forth. So it'll be a snapshot of a rating, which for, I know, at least one person on this call will be excited about that. So it's a new functionality. So it means that Totara Form is very much now a fully rounded performance activity management system. You can provide really robust and relevant performance activities. There's always more work to do, and there is more work ongoing, but now 14 provides that extra across question redisplay, aggregated responses, and content review elements. So let's have a look what that looks like. So this is the redisplay option on the left. Here's my little cursor here. On the left is the admin view, so the creation of the performance activity, and on the right is the user view. So you can see that this is the add element. So we've got a rating question here, a open text or long answer question here. So you can relate these questions together. So this is around what was your response in the past? And you can see here your previous response was 7, and you can rate it for this quarter as an example. Now this is the aggregation option. Again, administration functionality sitting here on the left, user experience or user example on the right. And you can see that we can have an average, so that would be a mean average calculation or aggregation on a score, a maximum, a minimum, and a median of a question. And this is a similar response, or this is related to that previous screenshot. And you can see here for this individual, they can see their average, their maximum, median, and minimum across their responses, as well as their manager's responses. And lastly, in terms of screenshots here, we have the content review. So this is the competency review. So here is, again, admin on the left and user on the right. So this is an example competency called competency example, how it has been assigned, the achievement level and proficiency or not, and then related questions again. So we can have these sub elements to these competencies. So we can not only display the competency and rate it, but we can ask separate questions around it. What you can see here is, when will we be ready? And what's your biggest challenge, as an example here. So you can see that the rating, and it can be submitted optionally. So as I said, there are dedicated sessions covering the details and more information relating to the centralized notification system and the Totara Form updates. I'm sure there's a million questions in the QA. Are there any, Matt, there that you would take a gamble that I'd be able to respond to, or should we push on?
Just a quick one. Is it easy to upgrade from Learn Professional to Totara Learn?
Yes, it's a flavor. So essentially you'll just allow you to switch to the Learn flavor. Everything will be updated. Essentially what that means is the functionality that wasn't available will become available. So yeah, absolutely. Great question. Okay. So the idea, yeah, the gateway LMS, you could start with professional and then move to Learn when they realize that they want programs, for example. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions there?
When upgrading from so from Totara Learn 12 to 13, we had to rebuild our custom theme. Will this be necessary for upgrading from 13 to 14 as well?
There might be some minor tweaks, but it won't be a complete rebuild, no. The pane was from 12 to 13 when we implemented the new TUI front end. Now that's implemented, then ongoing, it should be much easier to update your theme across upgrades. It was very much a short-term pain, long-term game approach to that front end change.
And one more, last one.
Yeah.
Will goals also be included in 14?
No, goals aren't in 14. We've got ongoing work to do there. Phil will provide some information about what we're planning across goals, but we focused very much on that kind of feature parity for 14, but it is on the roadmap.
Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you. So want to find out more? What we have is a lot of resources available for partners, and we're aware that that can be a little bit overwhelming in terms of where you go and where to find it. So there is the Totara partner area in the community. There is, of course, the Totara Academy, and we've been frantically we'll be working through the 14 updates. There are a lot of resources on the website and also available through the community. As well as blogs, and we'll be posting more across 14 as time elapses, and of course the help documentation and the Alliance Partner box folder. But because there's all these different areas, we've created a kind of hopefully one-stop area as a 2-page PDF of the resources that are available across the community and across the website, etc. So you can use that to say, where can I find help? What type of help can I find there? And a link to those areas. It's often a matter of you don't know what you don't know, or you don't know what there is available to you. So if you start with that document, maybe Matt, if he hasn't already, might post a link to that in the chat. Start there, and that will probably save you sending an email out to support or to Andy or myself or even Matt. And find out yourself. So, are there any questions questions, comments, general chat or banter that I need to know about, Matt?
So there's quite a lot of questions on notifications, and we'll collect those, as Meredith says, and we'll pass those on for the next session. Another question on Perform. Is the appraisal functionality still being withdrawn in T14?
Not in 14. So because we had we've shortened that release cycle to 6 monthly, we won't be removing it from 14. You've got a little bit longer time to migrate customers. Good question. Thank you.
Okay. And the rest of the questions are mostly on notifications now.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll forward those to Phil. He may already have them planned to be included, but just in case, we'll forward those on. Thank you very much for posting them and letting me get away with not answering all the questions today. I appreciate your time and your patience. It's better to hear from the expert on these types of things. So thank you very much for everyone who's joined. We had some really great numbers today and some really great questions. I hope you got a lot out of it. I do have a little poll to run just to see how we did today. Launch poll. It's anonymous. Basically, I'm just working out whether we provided you some value today. So do you now have a better understanding of what will be available in 14? Appreciate that we only just touched on some of the big items, but hopefully we added value to your lives today. And while you're completing that, thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate all you do for me in the QA and in the chat. So thank you. Alrighty, looks like the majority of people got some value out of the session. So thank you so much. Hopefully you're all being honest. That's great. I am glad that this was helpful. I'll be running another session tonight for the APAC time zone. There's no need to join that. Again, we'll be covering exactly the same session, but the recordings will be available. So thank you so much. I'll close that poll out. It looks like a majority will find that helpful. Great, so thank you so much. We will call it a day there. And as we've been saying, the session is being recorded and we'll post it on the community in the next couple of days so you can review. You can pause and pore over those screenshots as you need to, or even share with other people within your Totara partner organization. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time, everyone.